Okay, I wanted to start off this first video with just a real simple feature that Rhino has. Say you're working on something and you're doing a bunch of different iterations of it, and you're starting to get a lot of stuff in one file. And let's say this is the version here that I want to keep. And I don't want to delete any of this info, but I want this, and I don't want any of that. There's a really good way to keep this information and bring it into actually a new file, and what it's called is exporting. And so you can actually export this information. So if you select it and you go to File and you go to Export Selected, what that'll do is it's essentially like saving the file, but what it's doing is it's saving only the information that you have selected into a new file. So I'm just going to rename this and go the one I want, right? And I'll delete this after, but just real quick. So I named it that. You're still in this file, but if I go into that area, the one I want is right there, and when I open it, it's going to open with just the information that I had selected. So let's say if you're doing something and you're working real hard and you're making a lot of different versions of something, and then you find the version that you like and that's the one you want, then you can export that version into a new file, and then look, it only brings in the layers and the objects that you selected. So that way now you can start fresh in a new file. It'll retain all your information that you had in your previous file, so that way you don't have to go back to units and change it from feet to something else. It's already going to be in what you were in before. So this is a really good way if you're working on something, and just essentially if you need to transfer it, or if you want to just work on it solely, like let's say you've done a bunch of versions of something and then you found your final product, you can export that final product into a new file and start fresh, and then you don't have to deal with all the extra layers and all the extra information that was in that previous file, and you can start working fresh again. And that's how you export something. So I'll just show you real quick one more time. You go and select the objects to export, go to File, and you can export selected, and then you just go ahead and save the file as a new name. And you can even do that, let's say for instance if you're doing multiple versions of something, then you can go 001, do that name, and then if you make some changes you can export it again and go 002. And so you can start to export and make multiple files of the same object, and that way you always have a version of it at each step. So that way if you do something that you don't like, you can go back to the previous file. So it's a good way to sort of save progress and not delete things, because sometimes you get a little bit frustrated with a dirty model and then you just start selecting a bunch of stuff and deleting it. It might actually be better to just select what you want and export it into a new file.